Hi, this is Phyllis Tarbox with Above and Beyond Counseling, and today I'd like to share with you a client's testimony who was delivered from a murderous spirit of fear. Fear chased him toward a premature finish line with 40 seizures in one day. His body writhed under the pressure of the attack. His eyes rolled in the back of his head, and his soul was running towards the edge of the grave. Death was in pursuit, but life won the race. Meet Omar, an anointed worship leader, a husband, and a father whose life teetered on the edge of death because of a spirit of fear that entered into his eye gates when he was just a child. Omar's family relocated from Puerto Rico to the United States following the path of his father's military career. He basically described his childhood as a circus of constant moving and never planting. And his father was purposed not to have a weak son. So he exposed Omar to pictures of war, murder, and violence at a very early age in hopes of toughening him up. But that allowed spirits of fear and death to seize the opportunity to enter through his eyes and begin their torment. His mother was emotionally unstable at the time. She divorced Omar's father and became involved with Santeria, a form of witchcraft that was birthed in Africa and traveled to the islands of Cuba, Haiti, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic. Her second marriage was actually to a padrino, which is a godfather in the practice of Santeria. But Omar did not take part in that. In fact, he ran. And he ran, and its death threats were requiring him to conform, but he ran. And rebellion and anger and retaliation were the friends that he connected with and joined him to a kindred spirit that were found in the Latin kings. And he joined that gang and vowed his loyalty. And he actually accepted their motto, which was born in the darkness, led to light. But however, and this is the good part, another king was in hot pursuit of Omar's soul. And the true light of Jesus Christ broke in on the scene. The conflict was too much, and in a rare event, the Latin kings actually blessed Omar out of the organization. That is very rare. This took connections in very high places in the ranks and a trip to a Catholic church to actually decrown him. He never turned back, but it took a counterfeit crown to accept the one that God had reserved for him. And in Romans 6:12 of the Passion Translation, it actually says, sin is a dethroned monarch. Life for Omar moved on. So fast forward, he's leading worship, he's married, and he's expecting his first son when the spirits of murder and death declared war over his soul. They launched their attack with over 40 seizures in one day. And the prognosis was very dim. His church set up a 24/7 prayer vigil around the clock over his room, but lurking in the room next to his were demons of death that were plotting their grand finale. A husband whose wife lay dying was screaming at his stepdaughter over the family assets and the will. And the medical tech on duty asked him to leave the room. But that enraged the stepfather. And he went home and came back with an agenda to murder his wife, the medical tech, and his stepdaughter. And he came back with a gun. And he was brandishing it to kill whoever got in his way. Now, the medical tech ran, of all places, to hide in Omar's room. And it was odd because the stepfather searched every room, but he never looked in the room right next door, which was Omar's. Because why? It was covered under the shadow of God's wings and all of that prayer that had been set up for Omar. So frustrated, the stepfather went back to his wife's room, killed her, and then took his own life. Omar was hidden. But it took quite a bit of time to help him feel safe. Because remember, he's in the hospital for seizures that were finally diagnosed as fear-based. And here he is with all this drama going on around him in the hospital room. So I went and I prayed Micah 2:13 over Omar. And then I prayed that he would come in for deliverance. And that scripture goes, the breaker goes up before them. They break out, pass through the gate, and go out by it. So their king goes before them, and the Lord at their head. That's Micah 2:13. That scripture worked. He came in for deliverance, and during his deliverance, the spirits of fear manifested by clenching Omar's teeth. I sensed they were about to release their fury because his body became stiff, and he just got super rigid. But then in the middle of it all, I suddenly felt God's love overtake me, and it just began radiating like liquid love just pouring out of my eyes. And all I could say during the deliverance was, Omar, just look in my eyes, just look in my eyes. I kept saying it over and over again. And he saw God's love. And the spirits just left. And his body just slumped in peace. Omar later told me that he had experienced the love of God in the past, but this level of God's love was incomparable. I went to bed that night asking God, can you tell me what that was today? Because I've done a lot of deliverances, but I had never seen one like this one. And God's response was really clear and simple. Perfect love casts out all fear. Today, his parents are saved. The seizures are gone. The fear is gone. And Omar's baby boy has a new legacy to experience through his encounters with God. The blessings can now travel down to the next generation. If this has blessed you today, and you know that there are things that have been lurking in your past that have been chasing you with fear, don't put up with them one day longer. Make that call for deliverance. This is your time to pass over. I pray this blessed you today, and go in God's peace.